Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to the Current Affairs talk show here on NTV News Channel with me, Shivanee, Thapa, Basnyat. Today we have invited experts in the field of ICT. A senior advisor who has long been working with governments and stakeholders in South Asia under the International Telecommunications Union, a specialized UN agency, all for ICT development, specifically in creating conducive policy and regulatory framework. And the other is a senior director of Nepal's telecom regulator, that's the Nepal Telecommunications Authority. Dear viewers, today South Asia stands at the cusp of a new era of development and is vibrantly leaping forward in various domains. And so is Nepal. And we all know challenges for the region and of course for our country is innumerable. We today seek expert and experienced views over the present state of affairs and the road ahead relating to ICT in the region and in Nepal. Also, we touched upon slightly on the global context as well. Pleased to welcome you all, both of you, to the studios of Nepal Television. And coming to Mr. Sharma, indeed, really pleased we are to have you back in our studios again. And equally pleased we are to have Mr. Ananda Raj Khanal, the Senior Director at the Nepal Telecommunications Authority. And said that, let's begin with the whole picture, that is the context of the region, South Asia. So coming to Mr. Sharma, where do you see or where does South Asia today stand in terms of technological innovations and standardization in the global map?
Thank you, Shivanee. First of all, it's my deep honor to be back here in the studio talking to you about a vibrant Nepal. And I'm very excited in particular when the Digital Nepal's framework and the strategy is being articulated here. When we talk about ITU, its mandate is to make sure that the transformation that is taking place because of the innovation, we bring the benefit of technology for socio-economic development. Coming in SAARC region, we come out with a report called ICT Development Index, which actually ranks the economies in terms of their ICT access, ICT uses, and the ICT skill set. So Republic of Korea is on number 1 this year. And if you look at Nepal, while considerable development has taken place, for example, 135% of the voice telephony and then the 50% of the broadband, in ICT development ranking in Nepal, we are at around 28 regional level and around 139, you are right, at this rank. So a lot of development has taken place, but since it is a relative measurement, so while we are moving fast, perhaps we might definitely move even faster than we have been striving for.
That means you're very much looking forward to taking bigger leaps ahead.
Indeed.
Right. Coming to you, Mr. Khanal, much is going on in the case of Nepal. We have seen certainly a huge leap in the past decade, but still, continuing from where Mr. Sharma left, where does Nepal and you as a regulator see Nepal in the region?
The two things we have to understand. One is the global ICT index, where Nepal stands as 140th position, and Nepal is progressing in terms of increasing the index value, but its ranking is sometimes up and down. It means that even though we are progressing, but others are progressing in a very high speed, and I attribute this to the affairs that happens in the country, the political instability, there is uncertainty in the policies that we bring, the implementation of the policies. We have very good policy frameworks. Back in 2015, we brought ICT policy and broadband policy, but there's political instability, the government changes, priorities change, the leadership changes. That has given a kind of setback to the aspirations that we had set in the policies. Despite all these shortcomings, compared to the other sectors, services and infrastructure, telecoms, we are proud of where we stand.
So you mean to say we have not been able to harness the optimum potential?
Yes.
So there's so much more to look up.
Yes, we could have done much more. And regarding the ICT Development Index, one of the components he talked about digital skill set, and this parameter is measured from the education, the enrollment and all those things, which is beyond our control. So it is looked by another ministry. So we don't have control over how many children are enrolled in the primary education, something like that. So in our policies, we have very clearly articulated, and we have started a very systematic and strategic approach that we should intervene in each indicator. We have 11 indicators in 3 sectors to improve the ICT development index. We have already worked out, so that we intervene in each index parameter. Then probably next year you will see there is different ICT development index for Nepal, and its ranking can be improved.
Yes, it is very much apparent, that despite sharing much commonalities, there is a huge digital divide amidst the nations in the region itself. A very small region, vibrant region, but still there's a huge divide. Now, how does ITU perceive it, and how do you deal with this?
I think you rightly said, but before going to the digital divide, I also want to highlight about the innovations that has happened because of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, which is based on physical cyber world. We are using the power of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and cognitive computing. And then because of all these things, the automation and those technologies will definitely improve the manufacturing around $3.4 trillion in the coming years. Having said that, while we already have, I think, more than 7 billion of mobile subscribers, and then we have around 80% of LTE coverage, which is around 4G technologies, but still 50% of the world population is still are not online. And this is global figure. And if you look at Nepal, which has got a challenging terrains and difficult topography and geography, we do have here a mechanism called Rural Telecom Development Fund, and those funds actually could be used, is already being utilized, but we have to think it in a different manner, because ICT is not just for telecommunication now, because we have to see the cross-sectoral collaboration for achieving sustainable development goal of United Nations, whereby we have to make sure, for example, in agriculture, how we can actually improve the agricultural productivity. For example, for health, around 41 million people are dying every year because of the lifestyle diseases. How we can harness the power of technology for giving better health outcomes. So if we can look at each and every sector, the role of ICT, earlier we were trying to talk to these sectors, they would say, hey, well, ICT is good, but I think perhaps let us focus on our own objectives. But I think it's the other way around, because ICT is cutting across all these sectors, and collectively, not only just the technological divide, but also gender divide is one of the bigger issues, which has actually increased from 11% to 12% in last few years. So we need to make sure that we have got this collaboration, let's say with the ITU and the UN Women, and then ITU and ILO. So these are the collaboration that we want to make sure we work together. Skill set is one of the key components, because it will not only enhance the uptake of technology, but those people, they will get the jobs which are not actually available now, future ready job skills, which will improve the productivity, which will improve the overall economic development and empowerment of women.
Mr. Khanal, could you shed light on this about, given the significant number of mobile users in Nepal, how has this been contributing on all these spheres and making Nepal future ready?
Yeah, I compliment what he said about the digital divide. Digital divide manifests in multiple dimensions. So first dimension is the rural versus urban. So there is a huge gap, and that's where the RTDF has been formed. So Rural Telecom Development Fund is used to bridge that rural-urban divide in the country. But the digital divide manifests in other dimensions. For example, gender. For example, affordability. For example, skills. For example, the willingness. The more people are exposed, the more people understand the benefits of ICT, they are likely to use these facilities. But those who are not exposed, don't have the idea, even though it is accessible, affordable, they may not use it. So for urban-rural divide, we have this RTDF, and it's a targeted intervention. But other areas that I mentioned also requires a targeted intervention by the government and policies. So we are working on all these dimensions to create an environment where the digital divide is narrowed. One thing. Second thing that you are talking about on how ICT is contributing, you see the last local elections, all the political leaders, despite the political parties, were talking about smart cities, talking about good governance. So all these things can happen only if you are going to utilize the potentials of ICT. So in terms of governance, now you go to any of the ward office, they have the software. So all the kind of services that we get from these local governments is kind of online. Even the payments are online. So small payments can be done online through mobile, something like that. So it is impacting slowly, but again we are focusing on a targeted intervention. Unless there is an intervention by the government, it's going to be very slow, evolutionary.
What could that intervention be?
For example, we want to bridge the urban-rural divide. That means we require infrastructure to be built by the government's money. Okay, so that will divide the infrastructure divide, the access divide between urban and rural areas. In terms of gender, gender divide, similar kind of intervention. For example, encouraging girls through a scholarship or through specific trainings in the local areas, by local governments to use ICT. That's where this International Girls in ICT Day comes. NTA is utilizing this opportunity not only to commemorate that particular day, but throughout the year we host a number of training activities, awareness programs throughout the country. So similar kind of interventions if we make, then only the divide that exists in multiple dimensions can be bridged. That's what is our direction.
Coming back to Mr. Sharma, the buzzword for the past few years has been regional connectivity, very much been carried by the powers of the region itself. So what does the data say? How far has it been achieved in the region?
I think in terms of regional connectivity, if you look at it, there are again different dimensions. One is that the actual connectivity through optical fiber, and then we have tremendous improvement. And one of the projects that I want to really highlight here, taking the opportunity of this platform, is the terrestrial transmission network that we are harnessing with the United Nations ESCAP office, which is there in Bangkok. So together we are actually trying to consolidate whatever infrastructure is available, whether it is mapped or not properly, from all operators from all the countries in this region, that would identify the gaps where the infrastructure is not there, which will give a unique opportunity for infrastructure investment for them to see that, that infrastructure is actually bridged. But that's the first aspect. Second important aspect is to making sure that this infrastructure which is developed, that actually it's utilized properly with kind of the applications which is relevant, let's say, for agriculture. And one of the biggest example that I want to give is the digital financial inclusion. Because our citizens may not have as many accounts as number of mobile phones, and in the banks cannot be established in rural areas. So in this particular aspect, we have come up with the World Bank, ITU, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation around 85 recommendations. And China, Mongolia, even India, the Planning Commission has actually adopted our training modules, whereby we can provide the use of technologies for financial inclusion. Once on your mobile, you are able to access all the government applications, as Ananda has just also mentioned. With the touch of the button, you could get all these services, be it paying your bills or any kind of transaction. But one important aspect here is making sure our infrastructure and transaction is safe and secure, security and privacy. And I'm happy to report you that last year we were here to actually draft the cyber security strategy and capacity building on the cybercrime law. We met the secretary here yesterday, and we are happy that this legislation is in the final stages, and hopefully it will provide an infrastructure which is safe and secure for the citizens of Nepal.
If you could build on that.
I would like to compliment on what he said. We have something called a regional sub-regional project called SAARC. So it is funded by ADV, which connects Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and India. And in the Silgudi you have an exchange, interconnection. So it's already completed. So through the optical fiber. So and the Silk Road initiative for terrestrial connectivity, UNESCAP he mentioned. So probably these initiatives will connect the region with a very robust terrestrial infrastructure.
If you could also shed light on the barriers and advantages for landlocked countries like Nepal and Bhutan in the region in this very context.
This is, you said both the advantage and the barrier. Advantage is that ITU always focuses on something called SIDS, small island developing states plus landlocked countries, and they come up with a lot of recommendations, technical assistance. So if a country is very proactive in getting international support, there is an opportunity. But if the country is not proactive, then we are missing a lot of possibilities that internationally we can get it. And this is what is happening in Nepal. We have not been very proactive. It can be attributed to the frequent changes in the government, not only in the political level but also in the bureaucratic level. So the institutional memory is almost not there. So we are not able to really tap that potential the ITU can facilitate through other agencies for countries like Nepal.
As we sit here and engage in this conversation, there's a very important conference ongoing in Dubai under the ITU. So if you could share, and if you have any new updates on what sort of agendas of the region, and especially of countries like Nepal and Bhutan, which are landlocked and aspiring for development, could feature or could expect out of that forum.
Thank you very much, and I really commend your update and the knowledge, which is actually this plenipotentiary conference, which is the highest level of decision-making body of ITU, which happens every 4 years. It's happening in Dubai, and our minister from Nepal, he is already there. He made a statement there, which is already there on our website. This decides the course of future direction of the union in terms of what kind of policies are relevant using the latest technologies that we are trying to adapt. At the same time, what are the standards that we are going to adapt, and finally, whatever technological standards and innovations are happening, how we can actually shape the direction of the development in terms of the inclusivity, in terms of innovation, in terms of sustainability and the private partnership. So coming back to Nepal, as Ananda already said, we have a specific regional initiative we call in our ITU's technical terms. There are 5 regional initiatives. One of the regional initiatives that we have is to assist the SIDS and the landlocked countries. And in Bhutan and Nepal, countries like this, I think it is a great opportunity in terms of trying to leverage the presence of our office there in Bangkok, which tries to assist our and bring several countries. Give an example. Even last year we brought Internet, UNODC to organize a specific training for Nepal police. These kind of collaborations coming out of from the PP, looking at for future direction, we stand by to commit the assistance that we can provide and work with NTA, and even in the telecom sector and the broadcasting sector, migration from analog to digital broadcasting, we are very happy to assist in this progressive. And lastly, most important thing is digital transformation. It's not giving the devices in the hands of people, but the overall strategy and the framework we are drafting here, a strategic framework for Nepal for next 5 years that would be setting the goals and the future strategies to make sure that the infrastructure and connectivity becomes very affordable for people of Nepal.
Coming back to Mr. Khanal, Nepal is at a very, very important crossroads. And if you really pay heed to the political buzzwords, the political instability and activities of the likes are things of the past. So we're certainly looking ahead. Nepal is looking ahead, what I must say.
True.
So what is Nepal looking forward to? Because at this time, the globe is looking towards ICT as a tool to attain the SDGs together. So how is Nepal looking forward to making use of ICT advancement, and what would be the role of ITU in this endeavor?
So we are currently focusing on the building a very robust, scalable, inclusive telecom infrastructure that will pave us the way for providing any kind of services and any kind of applications that run on those services. So this is what NT is doing it. So we have optical fiber network projects and also the broadband access network projects going on. Second thing is the government is preparing a digital Nepal framework taking into consideration 8 main domains, and also 80 other associated parameters for digital Nepal. So probably it will come very soon. It was being consulted 2 months back. So and we are coming with the 5-year strategic plan so that our style of working will coincide with what ITU is doing. For example, ITU has currently running Connect 2020 agenda. So there are a number of targets and indicators to be achieved by 2020. So we also take into consideration WSIS World Summit on Information Society beyond 2015. So they have a number of indicators for the inclusive ICT society, information society. Similarly, we have a regional APT, Asia Pacific Telecommunity. They have a strategic plan. So our approach is whatever global targets we have signed in, agreed through different regional and international agencies like ITU and APT, and also there is a sub-region like SAARC region. And what are our policy commitments through our ICT policy, telecom policy, broadband policy, and government's vision of SDG. So we align all those things, bring a very inclusive strategic plan, and then systematically execute it. One of the major thing that we would like the government to see is expand the mandate of NTA so that whatever ITU is doing can be systematically taken care by NTA's activity.
Mr. Sharma, we're in the final moments of this conversation, and the last time we met, you really talked about, if there would be an effective ownership, you talked about effective implementation would following that.
Yes.
So how do you evaluate that? In brief, how do you evaluate Nepal's performance in the past 2 years, and what are the prospects ITU is seeing in Nepal?
No, I'm very confident. The assurance that has been given by the ministry and the work that we are working very closely with the Nepal Telecommunications Authority as well as the industry, their willingness to embrace, as you have heard from Ananda, that they want to follow the targets, they want to make sure that the commitment that Nepal has made internationally and globally, they want to work together, harnessing our presence. We are at your disposal to work together in the entire process of ICT development in Nepal, and I'm very, very confident, not just optimistic, that we will achieve it together better and faster.
Thank you so much. I reiterate, it was a pleasure to have you both here and being able to share what is in progress in the sector of ITC in the region and in Nepal. We do hope to catch up once again with more achievements and more good stories to share. For one more time, very much thank you for coming over and being a part of this conversation.
Pleasure.
Thanks so
much.
Dear viewers, that is it from today's Current Affairs show. We'll catch up with you with another burning issue of the current times very soon. Until then, goodbye and namaste.